Hello, Chris Olka here from the Cincinnati Symphony Orchestra. I'm here on Monday and Tuesday of this week working with New World Symphony and all the low brass players. Okay, so before we get on to the excerpts, I want to talk to you a little bit about audition strategy. So the audition strategy, as we discussed earlier warming up today, it's about defying stereotypes. And the stereotype of the tuba that we've discussed that seems to be the most prevalent in auditions when people perceive a player as having shortcomings on the tuba, it's relative to how much they breathe, right? That tuba, boy, it sure takes a lot of air to play. Well, if that's one of the stereotypes, we need to know how we can manipulate the listener, i.e. the audience or the committee behind the screen, into perceiving that we breathe less often than other players. Now, when I was at the Juilliard School, I studied with Joe Alessi a lot, almost on a weekly basis, excerpts and audition preparations. And he boiled it down to just don't sound bad. Now that seems overly simplistic, right? But at its core, it's exactly the mission statement of playing an audition. So he said, one thing about breathing is people perceive that you breathe a lot if you set up a breathing rhythm. In other words, if you breathe in a place that's so obvious that you're going to breathe there, and you breathe there every single time, then you're going to be pigeonholed as a breathy player. Whereas if another player breathes the same number of times in any given phrase, but they do it where it's not expected, such that the listener's not anticipating that breath, and they don't go, aha, you breathed where I knew you were going to breathe, then you get a pass. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so in any excerpt that we're playing, we want to try, as tuba players, we want to avoid that boring, predictable breath on the bar line, or in the middle of a phrase where it seems like it's low-hanging fruit to take a breath there. Just don't. But don't do it in such a way that it doesn't make sense either. And especially in the next excerpt we're going to work on, the first excerpt we're going to work on is Meistersinger. The Meistersinger Soli tutti passage. That's one that there are some places where people breathe that just drive me up a wall, because it sets up, it satisfies people's stereotype of the tuba. And then there's places where over the last couple of years it's been fashionable to not take breaths to try and impress the committee, and it's for no positive effect at all, because it's unmusical and actually serves to make them sound kind of stupid and struggling, unmusical and breathing more than they need to. So that's getting into the strategy of how we overcome certain stereotypes of the tuba. There's a lot more of them. We'll get into them as this hour progresses.